Hello, thanks so much for joining today. My name is Emily Campbell, and I'm a registered dietitian and certified diabetes educator. I'm so fortunate to be able to be talking to you on behalf of the Kidney Foundation today about kidney nutrition basics. It's really an honor to be speaking to the Living with Reduced Kidney Function group. I think it's really important that this group continues to really support you and provide you with information on your kidney journey. Today, we'll be chatting about kidney nutrition basics. So, who am I and why am I talking to you today? My name is Emily Campbell, and as I mentioned, I'm a registered dietitian and certified diabetes educator. I also have my master's of science in foods and nutrition. I'm a dietitian who works specifically with individuals who have chronic kidney disease, kidney stones, and many other conditions related to the kidneys. I know that there's a lot of questions, and some of you may be even thinking, where do I start with nutrition? You might even be wondering, what foods are good and what foods are harmful for your kidneys. Or you could even be asking, can I eat anymore? So over the next, 30 minutes or so, I really hope to be able to give you information that will help you manage your kidney function and really to delay the progression of kidney disease. I have years of experience working with individuals with kidney disease, both pre dialysis and on dialysis, as well as with related conditions like diabetes, high blood pressure, or high cholesterol. And I've also had family members who have lived with chronic kidney disease. So I understand that panic or that overwhelming feeling that can happen in the kitchen during meal times or at family events. And this has really made me passionate about making healthy eating really easy to understand, be delicious, and also nutritious for you. Nutrition is so overwhelming. There's so much information out there. Dr. Google's always available, and depending on which website or what source you go to, it can be quite conflicting. Are peaches bad or good? Are they high or are they low potassium? Are beans good or bad? What about peanut butter? Why is raw spinach okay but cooked a high potassium food? I could go on and on. But this is really why it's important to work with a renal dietitian so that you can help preserve your kidney function, understand how to meal plan with confidence, and which foods are going to help preserve your kidney function. The world of nutrition is complex. I work with my clients to really break it down so that it's easy to understand and maintain within your unique lifestyle. Food is something that we can control with kidney disease, and good knowledge should empower us to make appropriate food choices that we enjoy and that will be good for our bodies. I always like to start these talks really just understanding, what are the kidneys? Why are we talking about them? And understanding, why do we want to preserve their function? So 10% of the world's population is affected by chronic kidney disease. You're not alone on this journey. And connecting with support groups through the Kidney Foundation is a great place for gaining knowledge and support, really at any stage. The kidneys are two bean-shaped organs that are located on the back of our side under our rib cage, and they're about the size of a fist. The kidney performs many, many important functions. So one is really to remove the waste products from our body. Each of our kidneys has about 1 million functioning units, and these are called nephrons. When we have kidney disease, we lose the ability to remove waste products because these nephrons become damaged. So things like urea and uric acid and creatine, they build up in our body. The kidneys are important for balancing the body's fluids, and that's why sometimes we have fluids build up, like edema, or also to help us urinate. Kidneys are really important for also releasing a hormone that helps regulate our blood pressure. And that's why many individuals with kidney disease also have high blood pressure. The kidneys that play a role in producing an active form of vitamin D, and that helps to promote strong bones and healthy bones, which is why many people with kidney disease have bone pain or develop soft bones and can also put us at risk of calcification of our veins and cardiovascular disease. And lastly, the kidneys play a role in controlling the production of red blood cells. And that's why many individuals with kidney disease may also develop anemia or have some tiredness. Nutrition helps us preserve kidney function through managing our lab values like our GFR, our creatinine, our potassium, and our phosphorus. And as kidney disease is a progressive decline in the kidney's ability to excrete these waste products, it can take many years for us to see some of the symptoms of CKD. Things like, weight loss or poor appetite, swollen ankles, feet, or hands, so that edema, shortness of breath, tiredness, frequent urination, or peeing mostly at night. But nutrition plays a really big role before these symptoms come up. And nutrition plays a role in helping to delay the progression of kidney disease, which is often called a silent condition because these symptoms don't show up until it's very far into the disease. Nutrition plays an important role in helping us to delay the progression of CKD by making the kidneys do less work and really helping them to work more efficiently. Nutrition can also help manage other conditions with kidney disease like diabetes, high blood pressure, or high cholesterol. So it's important that we put nutrition at the forefront when helping to manage this condition. It can be really confusing and very overwhelming knowing where to start for nutrition, especially looking for meals that are going to taste good when we have kidney disease. And dietitians are critical in managing chronic kidney disease. If you haven't worked with a dietitian, now might be a great opportunity to think about how a dietitian can help you. As renal dietitians, we play an important role in monitoring nutrition, health, and providing recommendations for a balanced diet, balancing things like calories and protein and carbohydrates and vitamins and minerals like potassium and phosphorus. And this can be ever challenging with kidney disease. As a dietitian, I really help to provide, individualized tips with managing your kidney disease. And I work one-on-one with my clients to really show them, what nutrition strategies are important. The goal with kidney disease is to really optimize your nutrition status and to minimize the risk imposed by other conditions like diabetes or high blood pressure. Also, IBS and celiac disease and cancer, we can manage all of these conditions together when managing our kidney disease. Nutrition can play a role in really delaying the progression of kidney disease. So I've said that so many times now, but that is why we want to have good nutrition. Nutrition strategies should also be individualized and really take into consideration the cause of your kidney disease. So, main causes of kidney disease worldwide are typically diabetes and hypertension. But there's also reasons like autoimmune conditions like glomerular nephritis or IgA nephropathy, focal segmental glomerular sclerosis or FSGS, lupus nephritis, or genetic conditions like polycystic kidney disease. And each of these conditions really has specific nutrition strategies that can play a role to help delay the progression of disease. For example, when we have any autoimmune conditions, our gut microbiome may be off, and so rebalancing the flora can be really helpful. Things like polycystic kidney disease, reducing cyst growth is really important. And overall, with any state type of kidney disease, we may have inflammation in our body, and so reducing inflammation through nutrition and through our diet strategies is very important. There are four main pieces we can look at for nutrition. So, of course, there's sodium and protein, but really potassium and phosphorus seem to get a lot more attention, not just in the media, but also online. When we think about delaying the progression of kidney disease, sodium and protein is where we need to start. Potassium and phosphorus should be individualized. And this isn't to discount how if they're important or not, because potassium and phosphorus are very important, but not everyone needs a restriction. When we think about potassium, it really plays a role in helping to our heart to beat. And too little or too much potassium can be dangerous. A potassium restriction is only important for individuals if our lab values are elevated. Ultimately, we need to match our potassium restriction to our blood work. And that could be fluid from month to month because there's more than just the foods we eat that play a role in how much potassium we have in our blood. So things like our blood pressure medication, if we're constipated, if we're in a state of metabolic acidosis, that can also cause our potassium to rise. So we need to take a look at the big picture as well. Phosphorus, that's important for keeping our bones and teeth strong. And with kidney disease, this can actually build up in our body, causing, weak bones or hardened blood vessels. So phosphorus, again, individualized depending on our blood work, which is why some individuals can have, dairy products more often or nuts and seeds in their diet more often because of their individualized diets. Regardless of your lab values with phosphorus, it's really important to be avoiding phosphate additives, which are found in the food label in the ingredient list. And this is because our body absorbs 100% of these phosphate additives. And so reducing these as early as possible is important. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into sodium and protein individually because focusing on delaying the progression is what we're talking about. So let's talk a bit about those. Sodium is a mineral that's found naturally in food. It's added to packaged or processed foods. It's part of table salt. And with kidney disease, because the body is unable to filter properly, the body struggles to get rid of excess sodium. And so when I say sodium, I also mean salt. And so sodium restriction can help prevent, excess thirst, hypertension or high blood pressure, congestive heart failure. It can help prevent edema, and it also causes the kidneys to not have to work as hard. Most Canadians consume about 3,600 milligrams of sodium per day. And that doesn't matter if it's pink salt, Himalayan, black, table, rock, it all has the same amount of sodium in it. And that's 1 teaspoon has about 2,300 milligrams. So in Canada, we get a lot of sodium from our food, but also from table salt or salt in general. So when we're working with kind of individuals with kidney disease, we want to focus on how we can reduce that sodium to 2,300 milligrams. So that's the amount in 1 little teaspoon of salt. So the top of our tip of our finger is about the size of a teaspoon. So thinking about our salt sources, are we using sodium in our cooking? Are we like salt at the table? Are we salting our water? Are we salting our foods? Cooking from scratch at home is one nice way that we can reduce the sodium in our cooking because we're in control of how we're flavoring it. Reducing the salt through label reading is also really important. And so we can use the nutrition facts table, like the one shown on the screen, which is the new revised Canadian nutrition facts table, which has a lot of great information for us if we have kidney disease. So always looking at the serving size. So the nutrition facts table is always based on the serving size, not necessarily the portion that we're going to eat. So we have to take this into consideration. So on this one cup would be a serving size. We have to know, are we having more or less than what we're looking at on the nutrition facts table? And then we can look at sodium. And so there'll always be a milligram and a percentage. And trying to aim for things that have about 200 milligrams or less for sodium per day. 200 milligrams or less sodium per serving to get us to that 2,300 milligrams per day. So you can flavor your foods with fresh herbs and spices, or instead of using canned or foods that are salted or pickled items, try to choose no added salt products like no added salt broth or canned vegetables or canned beans or legumes. There's lots of great brands out there now that have no added salt products. Or choosing frozen or fresh vegetables. Frozen are just as nutritious as fresh, and personally, I think they're a little bit more convenient. When they're in the freezer, they're going to be a little bit more shelf stable. So it's okay to use frozen or fresh. Things like processed meats, like deli meats, are a really high sodium source as well. So trying to choose fresh meats if we're making sandwiches or wraps or topping our salads with them. You can use leftover meat from the night before. Also, things like eggs or tuna are great kind of alternatives to using deli meats. High sodium seasonings or marinades. So when we're flavoring our foods, fresh herbs or dried herbs and spices are great options for adding some additional flavor. Vinegars, oils, or even using citrus like lemon or lime to flavor our foods. And then reading food labels is important because there's a lot of high sodium products like breads or cereals or crackers. And so reading the food label to see that 200 milligrams per serving or less is really important. We can always think about other sources of sodium. So for example, if we were to go to, one of our local coffee shops and get a hash brown with a sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit and a French vanilla cappuccino, this actually has about 1,520 milligrams of sodium, or 7.5 of those little packets. So each of these little packets is about 200 milligrams of sodium. So remember, When we're thinking about our entire day, this meal has more than half. We can kind of look online. A lot of restaurants have the nutrition facts information on their websites, and you can build healthier meals. So, for example, if we are on the run and we need to stop off at a place, something with maybe a bowl of oatmeal, a Greek yogurt, and a green tea can have quite a lot less sodium, so 315 milligrams. So that's a great amount for a meal, and this meal is likely going to fill you up for a while. So, you know, using tools that we have available, and we'll go through some closer to the end of this presentation, but looking online to find the nutrition facts information of common restaurants you're going to reduce sodium is a great way of helping your kidneys. Another thing is kind of thinking about what foods we're having, right? So something like a Raisin Bran muffin is going to have about 370 milligrams of sodium, but something like a medium-sized apple has only 2 milligrams of sodium. So, with the apple, you're also getting some great vitamins, you're also getting some fiber, so going to fill you up for a while and also quench your thirst a little bit. Protein is the second thing that we want to consider when we're thinking about helping the kidneys and delaying progression. And protein, while we do need it to help build muscles and fight our infection to help keep the body healthy, with kidney disease, your body might be unable to remove all of the waste from protein in the diet. And this forces the kidneys to work harder. So excessive protein intake can cause waste products to build up. And that's why a protein restriction with kidney disease is important. And that helps us to reduce the stress and work on the kidneys. So we want to limit protein, but not eliminate it. A lot of people have questions about what types of protein. Should I have animal or plant-based? How much and how frequent should you be having of protein? And so current recommendations, we can take a look at plant versus animal-based proteins. And plant protein sources have been shown to decrease the protein in our urine, so proteinuria. They've also been shown to delay the progression of kidney disease because of less kidney tissue damage. If we have PKD or polycystic kidney disease, plant-based proteins have been shown to reduce cyst growth. Plant-based diets are really important in improving our blood glucose and our blood lipid control. So if we have diabetes or high cholesterol, there's a lot of benefit to having plant-based proteins. And then they actually have lower phosphorus absorption. So before I was mentioning those phosphate additives and how our body absorbs 100% of them. Plant-based proteins, we actually absorb between 20 and 40% of the phosphorus. So, great for the kidneys in terms of less tissue damage, but also less phosphorus absorption, meaning that we can have other higher phosphorus foods like dairy products or nuts, for example, a little bit more often in our diet. Current recommendations don't currently say whether or not we should have plant or animal or a mixed diet, but incorporating more plant-based meals can really help lessen the load on our kidneys. Diet is a great starting point. For individuals with chronic kidney disease and kidney stones, meal planning can be overwhelming, but a balanced plant-based meal can actually be helpful for kidney stones as well. How strictly you need to reduce oxalates if you have kidney stones really depends on the type of kidney stones you're having. And so that's why a dietitian can be really helpful with that. Your protein needs are going to differ depending on your kidney function, your height, and your weight. And a dietitian can help calculate this for you. I like to teach my clients, to think about their protein in terms of their bank account. And so you get a specific amount of protein per day in your budget. And so we want to space it out throughout the day. We want to understand, how many grams are in a serving and how much we're having overall to start, and really where we want to get to in terms of reducing that load on the kidneys. So limiting protein to, about the size of a deck of cards or 3 ounces per meal is a great starting point. We live in a world where perpetuates overeating. Our plates are getting bigger. If we go to a steakhouse, it's not a 3-ounce steak, it's a 10 or a 12-ounce steak. And so our society really causes us to eat a lot more of protein and a lot less of vegetables. Vegetables are full of fiber, and when we're reducing our protein portion, incorporating a bit more vegetables into our diet can help keep us full for longer, and also very helpful for the kidneys. When we think about protein, thinking about that plant or animal source is also important. And so 2.5 ounces of chicken, or about 75 grams, has 24 grams of protein in it, whereas half a cup of chickpeas has 6 grams of protein in it. So when we're thinking about reducing our protein, just swapping from chicken to chickpeas in a dish can really help reduce that by quite a lot. Also, if we look at the potassium and the phosphorus in these products, in these serving sizes, 257 milligrams of potassium in 2.5 ounces of chicken, well, that's actually a high potassium food. So anything more than 200 milligrams per half cup serving usually is what I would say is a high potassium food. So when we think about even reducing potassium or following a low potassium diet, chickpeas can play a role in there. And then phosphorus, so 181 milligrams to 101 milligrams of phosphorus with the chickpeas. And so knowing that our body's actually going to absorb less of this phosphorus from the chickpeas, and already we're getting less. So overall, these plant-based proteins can really play a role in helping us manage our kidney disease. Historically, we've been taught things like potatoes are bad and white rice is good for individuals with kidney disease. So meal planning can be really confusing, especially if you're managing other conditions like diabetes. If you look up any information online, it's super overwhelming. When we think about meal planning, we really want to go back to the basics and think about what's on our plate. Think about cooking from scratch and cooking at home as often as possible. So, really aim to have meals no more than 4 to 6 hours apart. If you're following a particular diet like intermittent fasting, this may not actually be beneficial for your kidney function or your GFR unless you have polycystic kidney disease. And so, thinking about our eating pattern, how that also plays a role in our kidneys, is important. We can consider, protein within our bank account, aiming for, about that quarter plate or 3 ounces per meal. When we think about protein, 1 ounce of animal protein has about 7 grams of protein in it, whereas half a cup of beans has, 6 or 7, depending on the type of beans. What do you think is going to fill you up more? Half a cup of beans or 1 ounce of chicken? Personally, I think the beans because it also has some fiber in it. So, going to help keep you full for longer. Making our plates very colorful and inviting with vegetables and fruit, one, shows us that it's quite nutritious, but also vegetables and fruit are important for delaying the progression of kidney disease because it helps to balance out metabolic acidosis. So some individuals may be on sodium bicarbonate from their physician to help with that. But also fruits and vegetables are a great way of helping to manage metabolic acidosis. Vegetables and fruits are helpful for constipation, right? They're also helpful for managing diabetes in terms of extra fiber in our diet to help control our blood glucose levels. They can helpful in reducing our cardiovascular risk as well. And a lot of times we kind of box ourselves into a potassium restriction, and that's where vegetables and fruits kind of come out and or get a lot of highlight. But when we do this, we often miss out on a lot of benefits of some great foods in a kidney-friendly diet. So understanding how to incorporate, great sources of fiber like green peas or broccoli, cauliflower, apple, raspberries, and carrots, which are all low potassium fruits and vegetables, but also really high in fiber can be helpful. So taking a look at, what our needs are based on our blood work can help us plan our meals around more fruits and vegetables. Choosing low potassium and phosphorus and low glycemic index starches are also really important. Some of my favorite are things like light rye or 60% whole wheat bread, sourdough, couscous, parboiled white, or brown rice. I think can fit in a low potassium, low phosphorus diet as well. And this is why. So when we're aiming for about a quarter of our plate, think about half a cup, for example. Half a cup of white rice has 51 milligrams of phosphorus and 52 milligrams of potassium, whereas half a cup of brown rice has 79 milligrams of phosphorus and 81 milligrams of potassium. To me, they don't seem that different, but it allows us to make better choices for our health and think about our overall potassium sources. So, maybe if we're having a banana every single day, can we have half a banana so that we can also incorporate the brown rice? So, knowing that it's going to be great glycemic control for those of us who may have diabetes, but also keep us full because of all that fiber. Some other really great fiber sources in terms of grains are things like oatmeal and popcorn. Of course, making water our beverage of choice and meeting our fluid needs. So some individuals may need a fluid restriction because of swelling on our body or any heart conditions we might have. But otherwise, water intake is important for helping to maintain the kidney function. Warm beverages like black tea, green tea, mint, chamomile, or orange blossom tea are all kind of great options as well. And coffee in moderation. Generally, I like to recommend fruit over fruit juices. And of course, water, whether it be tap water or carbonated water, are really kind of that beverage of choice. We talked about how one of the symptoms of kidney disease is, weight loss or tiredness. And so some individuals may need to add calories to their food. And you can do this by adding, heart healthy fats like olive oil or plant sterile enriched margarines to things like your oatmeal or your cream of wheat. Put them on your toast or your rice or your couscous, pasta, vegetables, salads. That's a nice way of just adding a little bit of extra calories. Depending on your overall intake, some dairy products like higher fat yogurt or sour cream or cheese could be added to foods. But remember that these still contribute a bit of protein. And depending on if your blood sugars are a concern, things like honey, jam, whipped cream, those are often things that we can add to foods to hide a bit of extra calories for us. But if you have diabetes, managing your blood glucose levels is also important. So where can you go to get support? So of course, the Kidney Community Kitchen has amazing recipes and resources. And I think that there's a lot of great information coming out as well on the Kidney Community Kitchen from some of our registered dietitians. We've talked about things like plant-based eating versus Mediterranean inspired eating and really kind of diet patterns for helping to reduce kidney uh, disease and helping you to manage your kidney function. And these diets actually are also helpful for diabetes and hypertension. And so, including, whole foods like fruits and vegetables, nuts, seeds, whole grains, beans, and legumes, and trying to limit, animal proteins like meat and chicken. Um, there's lots of great recipes online to kind of teach us how to incorporate these eating patterns and how to make nutritious meals, how to limit processed foods and limit added sugars. But also talking a little bit about incorporating physical activity. So Kidney Community Kitchen has some great information about the overall benefits of, nutrition. But when we also think about physical activity, uh, exercise and just walking for, 10 minutes a day, even if your doctor has not said that you can't exercise, walking for 10 minutes a day would be a great kind of starting point. So always speak with your doctor before you start walking or before you start any exercise program. So as long as your physician hasn't told you not to exercise, 10 minutes a day of walking can actually help to improve our GFR and help to slow the decline in function. Looking at the Canadian nutrient file for some nutritional information is also another great resource. So that's where I pulled the information about the chicken versus the chickpeas and seeing how much protein, potassium, and phosphorus are in them. If you're an individual who likes to get feedback, using Chronometer, which is an online resource that you could track your food. You can input your recipes or any recipe that you're thinking of making, as well as track your food for the day, and it'll tell you, this is how much protein, potassium, sodium, phosphorus you're having. And then, of course, working with a registered dietitian. So Many dietitians are covered in extended health insurance plans. So if your physician doesn't have a dietitian on staff or you haven't been able to connect with a dietitian, there's lots of individuals like myself and Kidney Nutrition who are available to help you on this kidney journey. You don't need a doctor's prescription to work with a dietitian, but always, check with your own insurance plan to see whether or not dietitian services are covered. If they're not, you can still work with a dietitian. You'd actually get a receipt to claim it on your income taxes. And so I help support my clients with kidney disease through, understanding their food records, looking at what they're eating, teaching them, how much potassium, phosphorus, and protein and sodium you're actually having. And this is kind of where we want to get you to. Dietitians like myself through Kidney Nutrition, I offer communication with my clients because I think in order to really delay the progression, you need feedback and you need communication and opportunities to like ask questions. And that collaboration piece, it's confusing out there. Nutrition should not be. And so with my clients, I really offer that collaborative piece through meal planning, regular follow ups, and really working with a dietitian should help support you on this journey.